Hello and welcome to the Heroes Journal podcast, episode number 7.
That's right. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kyle. Do you think there's ever a time where we stop saying what number it is?
I don't know. I was thinking that also we just said our names.
Yeah.
People know who we are.
Hopefully.
But if this is your first time listening, you're in for a treat.
Yeah.
We have a really, really exciting thing to share with you guys.
Yeah, every once in a while we'll get... we get stories probably 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And we're trying to do a better job of sharing them. But one we got from somebody today. Well, we actually got this message about a week and a half ago, but we haven't gotten around to recording it yet. But it's from someone from our live streams. We've actually spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah. It is from a hero in the Heroes headquarters who frequents the live streams. Her name is Neela. She's incredibly kind, super fantastic individual, and she sent us this really great email, and I think Kyle's gonna read it for you guys. So we're just jumping right in. Here's kind of a longer review, I would say, of the Heroes Journal from Neela.
And I'm gonna do a little spoiler before I read it, but the best part about it is she actually didn't buy it. She found it.
Yeah,
Which is really cool.
that is kind of interesting. All right, go ahead.
So, a little background story about how I discovered my first Heroes Journal. In March of this year, I lost a really close friend. So close, my kids called her grandma. She was my mom when I couldn't talk to my own mother. She also had her own daughter, Christine. Christine and I were so similar yet so different. We were referred to as sisterhood as a spectrum. She was given the journal from another friend, but did not start it because of her mom's passing. It got forgotten. Skipping a few scenes, not to mention COVID, had just shut down everything. But both of our lives were a literal and metaphorical mess. In the literal mess, I saw a white box on the coffee table. I'm like a cat and love boxes, so I picked it up. It was so white and smooth, I dare say it was satisfying to hold. I was not sure what I was looking at. The artwork on the front was cute and inviting. It was a struggle to open the box. It was that new. What I saw in the box, what I saw was so illuminating. The golden shining sword, the red fabric, that glowing ribbon. I had to open this book. I didn't care if it just slithered out of Pandora's box. I opened the book. Fast forward to December. I learned so much about habits and productivity after so much use of my journal. I love the storytelling that comes with it. My North Star was best of all, was bettering my emotions. I'm so proud of myself. My friend would be the one to be proud of me, and I thought I'd never feel that sense of praise again. I would turn to my North Star often. I love how I can remember something so happy and shiny like a star. My quest did change. It started with nothing, to 4 different quests, to completing 3 completely different quests. I entered the journal like a pre-programmed robot. I should always fill the day. I should always date it. I should always stick to what I wrote. Yes, most of that was true. But I learned that if I keep my North Star above my head, I can tweak my lifestyle to what I originally wanted. Happiness. I'm happy I started Taekwondo and earned my first yellow belt for strength and self-respect. I'm happy I started a business with my husband. He installs carpet while I do the paperwork for financial freedom. I'm happy I'm home with my kids while they study to help them find their strengths and teach respect. You may hear this a lot, but the Heroes Journal really did change my life. All I did was discover a box, and now I know myself better, my path is clear, my quest is happiness. I discovered a box. Then she quotes Galileo. All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered. The point is to discover them. Neela.
It's like a novel or something.
It's
really well said.
Yeah, it's not just that it's like heartwarming, but it's also very well said.
Yeah, it's well written. It's
Yeah.
like, I feel like I was like reading a memoir, like a book or something.
Yeah.
Like it was just like I opened the box and it was smooth. She like explained the details of it. I was like, oh my god, it's like my dream.
Yeah.
I was like, days and days and days of iteration and thinking about customer experience and stuff. But I mean, you're right. It is kind of cool that she didn't buy it. It's cool that she found it.
Exactly.
That's like actual hero's journey.
Yeah, right.
Status.
That's like we should like add a part to our FedEx is where they have like the FedEx driver has to bring a shovel and like bury it outside the person's house. And they have to go and find it. or something. I don't know. They're like, you have to find your journal.
Yeah, we should just start sneaking them into people's like homes, mailboxes, grocery
Yeah, like
cards, everything.
yeah, like there's like a weird like petty larceny, petty like theft vibe going on.
Yeah.
It's like we broke into your house to give you something. Maybe we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that.
No, yeah, on the record, we will not be doing that.
We are going to respect people's privacy, and
Off the record, we might, but
On
on
the
the
record,
record, we would never do that.
is that how that works? We just like declare where things are,
Mhm.
record or off on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a law degree. So.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that my favorite part about that was just there was so many things. It sounded like tossed up in the air to try to accomplish using this tool, right? As I had 4 quests, I accomplished 3 different quests, like and then I think that's our first review, or the first one that's as specifically thought out about the North Star.
Yeah.
That's something that I think you and we thought of for a long time, and I don't think it was a part of the first iteration.
No, the first iteration is just what is your quest.
Yeah.
But that's like Kickstarter status. But
Yeah.
as we continue to grow and iterate on it, like, yeah, we kind of realize that, you know, every like hero has like this North Star that they follow, and they also have their mission that they're going on. And typically a good story will have like resolution of the external and the internal thing. So it's like, you know, you kill the big bad boss, but then also the hero like remembers who they were, or like they avenge their dad or whatever. So it's like you kind of check both those boxes. But in real life, like there might be those 2 planes, but they're hard to identify. So an easier thing to look at from even just like a personal development, personal psychology level is like, what is the short-term goal that I'm trying to complete in like this period of time where there's like reasonable progress that can be made on it? And then what is the overlying reason for me wanting to do that? Like what's the real, you know, like bare bones, what's the goal under the goal? Like what's the real reason I like want to lose weight? What's the real reason I want to do Taekwondo? What's the real reason I want to start a business, right? Like maybe financial freedom, maybe it's self-respect. I like that she like distinguished those things. She was like, yeah, I got my yellow belt, but I did it for like self-respect, discipline, right? Like that's like the North Star. So yeah, you're right. She did a really good job of distinguishing those things. And I love how she was like, it's not about filling out the date and the, you know, all the stuff every day. It's about like reminding yourself of why you are doing what you were trying to do. So she nailed it.
This is why I liked. There's a lot of reasons to love it, but this is one of the reasons why I really liked it. Was there was a distinct effort, I think, on her side from writing it, but also I think distinct effort from us in developing the journal of like character development. I was one way, my life was a literal or metaphorical mess, and then through this time, and mostly the work that she did for herself, not the work the journal did, but there was this idea of like I grew, like my character arc grew, the depth of the character, and so I kind of want to switch subjects, and I'm gonna talk about this from a lay person, and you can talk about it from like a more expert standpoint.
Okay.
We watched The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I didn't watch the whole series, but I watched at least the first movie of both with you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my hot take, just as a layperson. I think they did a better job of building up Bilbo's character arc and character defining who Bilbo is better than Frodo. Because it felt like the way that Frodo is like called to adventure is because he's Bilbo's nephew, right?
Yeah.
But Bilbo was like, it was a lot about like hobbits don't do this. It was, but you're also a Baggins, and it's all this stuff. Like there's this really deep like tension inside of Bilbo that feels a lot more honest than like inside of Frodo. It's like, Frodo, you have to do this. And he's like you're a Baggins. Your uncle did this. Like, okay, you know,
Right.
like
A lot more forced.
yeah. And it's like, maybe it's because Frodo feels, because it was kind of Bilbo's fault that the whole thing was kind of like, he was the one who had the ring the whole time and all that stuff. So maybe he had to like undo the thing that Bilbo created. Maybe there was that part of it.
Yeah.
But it just felt like not that Frodo's character development was lazy. It just felt like Bilbo's was a lot more like teased out.
Well, it's a good distinction, right? And without getting into the genealogy of hobbits and all that stuff and why they're important to the races of Middle Earth and stuff. Just like in any hero's journey, there's typically two styles of calls to adventure, right? There's the kind that you get thrown into with little to no choice, and then there's the kind that the hero really has to sign up for it, in a way. And that kind of becomes an interplay with like refusal of the call, for instance. So in Bilbo's case, it's much more of like a, hey, we're going on this adventure, us, this like troop of dwarves to go reclaim this mountain. Now you were recommended as someone that could be a burglar for us, but you have to sign this contract. And that's like you literally signing to go on this adventure with us. You don't have to, So then when they leave and he, there's this feeling of remorse that he didn't end up signing it. So it ends up becoming his decision, which is a refusal to call. So he ends up being like, I'm going on an adventure. He has the contract with them. Right. So very much protagonist Bilbo driven, which does feel like a stronger character development. But Frodo's case, it's more about, and Lord of the Rings is more this way. It's more about the narrative of what's happening in the whole world, right? Where it's like the world needs this act or this deed to be done, and it's looking for a willing hero to do so. And so you have these, black riders coming in on the Shire, and like, it's like things are getting like scary and really intense, and it's kind of like, hey, you have to do this.
Yeah, and on top of the fact, Frodo already has the ring, right? It's like,
yeah.
It's not like it would be one thing if Frodo had to go find the ring and then destroy it. Right. Because that would be a lot more of like a willing hero situation, because he would have to agree to go find it, then destroy it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like giving someone a dog for Christmas. Mm-hmm. Like I already have like the dog's here. I have
you have to figure this out.
Yeah,
exactly. And life is like that. It's actually, it's like, that's why it works really well for us on a relatability standpoint. We've all felt like Bilbo. We've all felt that like FOMO of like, ooh, I should have done that. And there's still time for me to like make it up. And there's still time for me to set out. We've also felt like Frodo, where it's like, this just got dumped on me and I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because like the world needs saving, right? Like if I don't take action, really bad things are going to happen. So I actually like how they both have, I don't know how intentional that was, but I like how they both have these different angles of what a call to adventure can be like. And it reflects real life pretty well.
How would you describe kind of like our call to adventure? Because I honestly, maybe like both of ours is a little different.
Yeah.
Because like maybe yours is more like Frodo, where you had this idea and you had like this yearning to like carry it out, because it was the idea that came to you. You had this thing and it was like this, it was deep in your heart. Yeah. And then for me, it's like you came to me with this thing and I had to decide yes or no. Do I want to go on the road with you? Would you say that's a fair? So I don't know. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but I kind of want to tease this out through the lens of like.
I think
our business.
I think with the journal in our business, there's been a lot of calls to adventures. And you could probably argue there's been a lot of like hero cycles that have happened. But initially, it actually did feel more like a Bilbo style scenario for me, because it's, we've kind of talked about this before, but like, entrepreneurs, like it's usually not their first idea. Like you always have so many ideas. And so like people, when they're thinking of starting businesses, right, they're always thinking about like, what's the new thing? Like, what's the thing I can work on? And they all are kind of these little invitations to adventures in and of themselves. And you kind of learn as you go through life that like, you can say yes, or you can say no to things. And so it is kind of like this, like, it's very much the ball's in my court. There isn't a lot of, as opposed to, for instance, like my parents run a business and they pass it down to me. That's like a Frodo scenario where it's like, you have to deal with this now. And it's a fortunate thing and it's exciting, but it's still like kind of given to me, forced upon me a little bit. Bilbo, much more kind of was able to shop for things. And that's what it felt like. It felt like, oh, this is another idea. And I could say yes, I could say no. And as I kind of weighed the pros and cons of it, right? Like I was just I was like, like, I think that this is a really good thing for me to do. And I brought it to you and we talked about it, and I kind of felt the vibe where it's like, Nick, you need to do this. And that's where that FOMO came in. Like, I think that's, at least for me, everyone's different, but like my motivating hero thing was that FOMO. It was like, I could stay at my job in my cubicle in the Shire and like live this comfortable life that I was living, or I could agree to go on this adventure and like, learn a bunch of new skills, launch a Kickstarter, try and grow a business remotely, try and build a product from scratch, try and like hire a stranger to help me build it, work collaboratively with you, all that stuff. That fear of missing out on that adventure and really seeing what the idea could be, like, was the driving force, and honestly still kind of is. Like, I still feel this like FOMO of like, we're not there yet. Like, there's still so much more on this adventure that needs to be done. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel forced to do anything,
Yeah. I mean, there are probably things that we're forced to do now that like are more compliance based, Like,
yeah. The government's like, hey, you need to, pay like employee tax, for instance. It's like, okay, that's a Frodo thing. It's like, it's like a burden that gets cast on me that I have to carry now.
Are we about to start labeling things as Frodos and Bilbos?
I think so. I think it feels really clear.
Yeah. Like
is this a Frodo call to adventure or a Bilbo call to adventure?
Yeah. That's interesting.
There's probably.
Do you think there's any other like stories that are like saga like that have that distinction? Like, can you think about maybe like the difference between Luke Skywalker and maybe Ren? What's her name? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Or
I don't know if I distinctly remember Ren's call to adventure. I only saw the movie one time.
Or like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, right? Because they're in the same world. Like Han Solo seems kind of like he like is doing something for his own purpose, and then he becomes like a hero. He wasn't a hero at first.
He's more of a side character. I mean, there's Solo. There's like that spin-off movie.
Yeah,
but it's not the same story. So I mean, so Star Wars was designed to be a modern myth. It was literally taken like word for word from like the hero's journey from Campbell. In fact, I think Campbell was still alive when George Lucas was making the films, and they talked to each other about it. He was like, I want to make a modern myth in space. And it was like, what are the steps of the journey to hit? And he just kind of like did that in space, and it worked really well. So it's like a very pure hero journey.
Yeah.
For some reason, when you brought that up, the first thing I thought of, which is hilarious, was the Transformers movie.
With Shia LaBeouf.
I think so. There's been so many.
Well,
there's like the Bumblebee movie, and there was like a bunch of.
Well, the first one was good. I would say the first Transformers movie was good.
I hardly remember it, but what I do remember was this feeling of like there was this chaotic nature of like the call to adventure. It was like, I have a robot in my house kind of thing. That feels like a Frodo moment where it's like, there's a giant talking robot transformer thing in my house that I can't keep secret. That like
it won't leave me alone either.
Won't leave me, it's like I've gotten myself into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very much forced upon me.
Yeah.
Then there's like, I mean, Luke Skywalker, for instance, is kind of like a little more of an interesting scenario because he was like, Obi-Wan comes and he's like, hey, let me teach you the magic and the Force and all, of the Jedi, all that stuff. And he says no, and then like his house or whatever gets burned down. So he's kind of like, I have nothing to live for anymore here on Tatooine, so I better go be a Jedi. So that's more of a really strong refusal of the call.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
Yeah, or it's like, but so even if you think about like Harry Potter, right?
Yeah. It's a good example.
Like, you're a wizard, Harry, right at that moment. And like, I'm not a wizard, I'm just Harry. There's that whole thing, that whole interaction. Really, so that it's kind of a refusal.
Yes, well, because they move.
Yeah,
the Dudleys move to a super remote like island, and.
But I guess I'm trying to make the distinguish between like Frodo had to do it because he had the ring, right? He had the ring. He was a Baggins. All these things, right? But like Harry had to do it because he was the only one who could truly defeat. No. It was like anyone else could have done this. It was just convenient that it was him.
As the story goes on, as the story goes on, there is a prophecy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when you're just talking you don't really want to know that on the front end of a story because it ruins the story.
Yeah.
In the same way that someone like came along when I had the idea for the journal and they told me everything that was going to happen, I'm kind of like part of the excitement of saying yes is having no idea. Like, it could crash and burn, or it could be amazing. Like, you have no idea. So, you can't really play those cards initially in the story. you have to have the hero be relatable. And relatable is like, I'm living my everyday life, something interesting but inconvenient comes my way, and I kind of have a choice to either dig deeper into it or not.
Do you have any Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them? A part of me didn't like it because I felt like he was creating his own problems. You know what I mean? Like, it was like there was no real call to adventure. Maybe the only call to adventure was the fact that he liked these beasts and that they were like illegal or whatever. But he just bringing them to New York or whatever, wherever he was, and it just caused all these problems. And he's just reeling in problems that he created for himself.
Right.
Whereas there's no like tension between I have to do this thing, I don't want to really do it, but I need to do it because the world needs me to.
Yeah.
And it's like, oops, I almost ended the world. I'm gonna go fix it.
I think the most modern example that I can think of, sort of like Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter a little bit. Now, I haven't seen this movie actually, but the live action Mulan movie. I've watched a lot of reviews on it for whatever reason. I think from a storytelling perspective, it's interesting because you have obviously the original animated Mulan, which is amazing. It's like fantastic, super good storytelling. You have a hero that is, forced into not forced, but you have a hero that, accepts her call to adventure. She has to overcome these challenges and trials, like because she's a woman in like a man's, scenario. She has to overcome challenges in different ways, which like really invest in her character. From what I can tell and from what I've heard, the new Mulan, she has like magical powers kind of. And like the central conflict that they try and tease out is that she's not using her powers enough because she's like too shy to use them, which is kind of like, the main character has all this power and then creates a problem by not using the power fully or responsibly. It's just not very inspiring as like an audience member. We're getting into like deep storytelling theory now, but I think Fantastic Beasts is a little bit like that. It's just kind of annoying to watch it, right? You're like, like, hey, pick up the animals that are crawling. I actually like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but
it's funny, right? Because that's probably more what our lives are like. Is that story, right? It's like we're creating problems for ourselves and we're just like running around our house trying to clean up our own messes. That's why it's annoying to watch for a little bit. Is like there are things that we know we're capable of doing, but we don't use them well enough, and that's actually creating more problems.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like it's one of those things like when you're around someone you like hate everything about them, and you're like, oh, the reason I hate them is because they remind me the most of myself,
right?
And the things I don't like about myself. So maybe that's why I like Fantastic Mr. Beast,
Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Fantastic
great
Mr.
movie.
Fox, great, really.
Do not slander Fantastic.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Maybe that's why it bothers me so much, is because maybe that's like more of the arcs that I feel in my life.
Interesting.
Where instead of like setting out on new adventures, I'm just creating adventures by the problems that I created in my own life and trying to like contain those. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm trying to bring it back to like productivity.
I mean, not everything has a perfect correlation to the hero's journey. I mean, like, I think to be super transparent, it's like when we were researching, storytelling theory and personal development, like there are some things that have extremely strong ties to storytelling and personal development. Like setting a goal and like setting out on a quest are like so well intertwined and so fleshed out in such a relatable human experience, which is why I think the hero's journey works so well and is so kind of like future proof. It's like everyone's going to feel this way forever when they set out on a new thing. And you can share that experience when you watch Harry Potter or when you watch Bilbo or when you watch Frodo or whatever style it is. Like everyone's kind of felt these ways. Same way with you and Fantastic. I did it too.
Yeah, right?
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
It's hard.
I just love Fantastic Mr. Fox.
We're going to do a whole thing about Wes Anderson.
Yeah, we have to.
We has to. That's like, that's Kyle fodder right there.
Yeah.
It's like catnip.
It's true. But anyway, like, not everything on the hero's journey is perfectly relatable to life. Like there's certain parts in stories that like, it's hard to figure out where the dots align. I think what I found, the way that it works best is kind of like the retrospective, once you get past like the proverbial first act, right? Like setting out on your quest, crossing the threshold. From there, I think looking backwards is your best scope. You can kind of do like the quest in real time. Like I'm buying gym clothes because like I feel bad about myself and I want to feel maybe I want to feel happier about my body, which means my quest is going to be to go work out. So I'm going to like buy the clothes. I'm going to get the gym membership. I'm going to cross the threshold. So now I'm in the gym and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I can tell how out of shape I am, but I'm still working out. I'm overcoming these small challenges, even though I've crossed the threshold. From then on out, like, you're not really going to see the ordeal coming. You're not going to see the resurrection coming. You're not going to see like returning home coming. Those things will kind of, I think, sneak up on you in a way, because from then on out with most goals, you're probably building some kind of habit, which happens very subconsciously in a lot of ways. And so you kind of end up crossing the finish line, if you will, a lot of the times. And then looking back and being like, oh my God, like there was a call to adventure. And then there was like, trials and tribulations. And then there was a mentor that came along, and there was an abyss and like a rebirth and an ordeal and like Return with the Elixir. Like it all kind of like connects the dots when you look back. Humans are really good at that, by the way. Like when you reflect on the things that happened in the past, it's so easy to be like, oh, that happened because of this. That happened because of that. That's when creating a narrative about a situation, which Neela did really well, is really effective. And I'm sure even while writing that, she was having those epiphanies. Like you can kind of feel that in her writing, where she's like, oh yeah, I do remember opening the box for the first time. Like, I don't know. So that's like, to me, that's really rich. And that's the importance of tying personal development and storytelling together, especially after that first act, retrospectively. I don't know. That was a long rant, but
Yeah.
some of my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, I think that like the reason why it's so easy to think of like Lord of the Rings as like a quest is because we know where they're going, right? We know what it's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And we, generally speaking, if we have like a working understanding of Middle Earth, we kind of know the route they're going to take.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, for me, my quest is to feel like I got to win every day, to end every single day feeling like, you know what, I won the day. I seized the day. Very cliche.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of times where I don't know what that's going to look like when I wake up. I don't know what's going to make me feel or know that I did the best I could that day. And it's really hard, right? There's no map for that. There's no beautifully framed Astoria map for knowing like what's going to make me like have like a level of satisfaction about the day.
But that's being a hero, right? Like
Exactly.
you don't get to be the author or the audience when you're living your life. Like you don't get to know what's going to happen. You also don't get to sit back and just watch your life play out. Like you do have to wake up every day in the same way that Frodo woke up, halfway between the Shire and Mordor, and was like, what the hell's going to happen today? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope I don't die. I hope I, get a step closer to my goal, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
As the audience, of course, we're familiar with stories and happy endings. We know that we know the movie's 2 hours. Like, it's probably going to end pretty well. Maybe you read the books, whatever. There's plenty of evidence to show you that what's going to happen. There's kind of these safety parameters. But like life doesn't give you those.
Yeah.
Life doesn't have a 2-hour runtime and director commentary. It doesn't have a script. Like you just have to be a hero.
Yeah.
And hope it works out.
That's the secret sauce. That's the secret behind the secret sauce, is that we don't know. It's like like what's gonna happen. It's like, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Maybe you accomplish everything you wanted to. Maybe you accomplished more than you ever thought you could. Maybe you accomplished less than you'd hoped to. Like,
that's true.
Anything could happen, but it's like, right. I think about this. I read a book and I ruin it every single time. I ruin the premise every single time I use it, but I use it kind of for everything. But this idea of like anti-fragility, right? Like there's there are things that are fragile, but like what's the opposite of fragile? It's not something I can. It's like something that gets stronger. And what that really turned into me is like, what's a win-win? What are win-wins in my life? Where like if the worst thing could happen, the worst thing that happens is still a win. So like thinking of yourself as a hero, you never lose in that scenario. You will never ever lose.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I wanted to lose 10 pounds. I gained 2. But for the last 3 months, I've been treating myself like a hero.
Yeah.
It's like, because you probably would have still gained that 2 pounds if you weren't thinking of yourself as a hero.
Right.
But now like you have a better self-image, which is like, it's a win.
Yeah.
You're never going to lose in that scenario.
Well, that's kind of a nice thing about why I think the journal works so well. It's because you have, billions of dollars in the entertainment industry feeding this collective imagination that we all have around what a hero does. So when you start to call yourself a hero, to your point, even if you're going to end up gaining the 2 pounds in Oreos or like losing the 2 pounds, we all know that like heroes kick ass and they get their asses kicked. That's part of being a hero. Watching a movie where, you know, Iron Man never has a challenge, like, you know, he never has an opponent that can kick his ass. There's never a Thanos that can punch his mask and break it in half and make us think like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't look very fun. You know, like if you don't have that, it's not a good movie. And if you have a hero that just gets destroyed the whole time, it's also not a movie. Neither of those are a story. A hero sits on that fence between like wins and losses, ultimately for the better, ultimately for the good of their quest or their mission. But like when you start to give yourself permission to be the hero of your story, you intrinsically accept that there will be that 2 pounds or that there will be that setback. There will be the abyss or the moment you get your ass kicked. And in a way, you kind of want that because it's like a better story. In a way, you kind of, I think you accept the terms of your quest. That's part of it. It's like, hey, like there might be casualties, like there might be trouble along the way, but ultimately, like our goal is to get, you know, where we're going. But it's not going to be easy, you know? So anyway, I just think it works super well in the imagination we've built. So it's one of the most exciting things, right? Because like me, like probably many other millennials who grew up playing video games, watching movies, reading comics, you know, filling our minds with like lore and story and entertainment, really. It's a comforting feeling for me to know that I wasn't just wasting my time. Like I was building this imagination that now later in life, as I reframe my goals and my, you know, the things I want to get done, as I reframe them, like that imagination that I built, or maybe that people spent billions of dollars to build for me, I don't know. It's not wasted. Like it's going to something that's going to personally develop me better. And that's like one of the things I love about the journal is like, it tells an entire generation of people that like you didn't waste your time building that imagination. You didn't waste your time investing in like the shows and movies and games and things that you love doing. You were strengthening your capability to like reimagine those things in your own life, level up in your own way, go on your own quest, become your own hero.
Yeah. It's like being bilingual. It's like you've been spending your whole life learning the language and the actions of a hero.
Yeah.
And then now, like, I hope that we are someone who can come into your life and say, you get to act like your favorite hero too.
Right.
And that's something that's admirable.
A translator,
if you will.
An ambassador. Yeah. Because it's like, you know, movies and video games, there's always the antithesis of like productivity and professionalism and all that stuff. Well, like in the world we live in today, and like the COVID-ridden millennial professional remote working world, the lines are super blurred between casual and professional, between like the personal and the professional. And I think that there will, my prediction at least, which is one of the reasons why we're doing this journal, is like people's deep-seated interests and loves for like nerdy things will inevitably seep into their professional lives. So why not like help people normalize the bridging of that gap, right? It's not that like your love for Batman takes away from your ability to like be organized and make an Excel spreadsheet look beautiful. It's like there actually is some kind of connection there, because if Batman like kicks ass and can save Gotham from the Joker, you can kick ass on this spreadsheet and like make your boss proud or like be proud of your work or whatever. I think that there's just like some kind of psychological bridge there that I think that we get to help people cross with the journal and with other things we can make.
Yeah.
I don't know. It gets me really excited, and I haven't fully fleshed it out yet or really gotten the words to say it, but like I've always felt that way. I don't know.
I agree. Yeah. It's like, well, what would it be like to make an Excel sheet like Bruce Wayne? Right. That's an exciting premise when you're thinking about it.
What was Bruce Wayne's profession? Was he just a rich guy?
Well, he owned like Wayne Industries or something like that.
I don't know. Are we getting Tony Stark mixed up?
We could be.
Are they the same character?
They're very similar.
I think I just realized Iron Man and Batman are the same character in different universes.
But Iron Man has more powers, more technology powers. Iron Man can fly. Batman has like little
He can glide.
He can glide, yeah. Whatever it is. Anyways, we're not gonna get into that because we're gonna show our
Someone's gonna get really mad in the comments.
yeah. They're
On
like,
this.
how dare you?
Yeah. Sorry, I feel bad. I've been monologuing like crazy.
Well,
this
it's actually
podcast.
funny because I'm about to give you another monologue topic.
Oh, let's go.
I have one last thing I want to talk about.
Okay.
As Bert gives us the signal for 10 minutes left. So you have 10 minutes
Okay.
to do this thing. Just so you guys all know, Bert's behind the camera. He does a great job every time. Yeah, we don't ever give him shout outs on the podcast, but
I know. I wish we had another camera to get like the behind the camera shot.
yeah. And then just show Bert like,
Yeah. Yeah, Bert's like, Bert loves like all the superheroes and he loves Star Wars and stuff. We were like kind of brushing shoulders on all these topics and he's just back there like.
It's funny because sometimes when it looks like I'm looking at the camera, I'm actually looking at Bert for
I know.
validation.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, this Bert's our audience.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is the last podcast. It'll be published on the 2nd of January, but let's do a 2020 hero's journey. What happened in 2020? Let's put it in the frame of like moments where we had to accept a call to adventure, moments we had refusal of the call. I think it's like there's a lot of events that happened that I think would fall into.
It's a good question. I don't think I need more time to really map it out accurately.
Let's just take the highlights. Let's take the highlights.
Let's take the highlights.
So let's think about this, right? So it actually spans earlier than 2020, but so November 2019, we decided that Nick was going to quit his job.
Yeah.
Yeah, we decided that our fear was that we didn't have enough money to run the business with both of us being supported.
We worked at the same place in the same department. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I just burped. But one of us quitting to go run a side business that everyone knew we were both working on didn't make a lot of sense.
It didn't.
If that makes sense.
But we weren't like cash positive enough to be really comfortable
Yeah.
knowing that we would have enough money to support both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like my refusal to call. Was like, we don't have the resources.
Right.
I was like, I'll stay here. I'll stay in the comfort
Yeah.
because that's what's best for the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then fortunately, I mean, through pre-orders in November and then
Yeah.
January,
last Christmas time.
it really did well. It kind of blew up for us in a sense for what blowing up was at that time. It did way better than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah. There's a couple of days where I think we were working way harder on the journal, packing journals, getting orders out on time than we were on our real jobs. And I distinctly remember one day in December looking at each other being like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is our job now. Our side hustle is the corporate thing. We need to find a way to get out of it.
Cool. So that was like a refusal. And then obviously both quit our jobs at, the last week of January. So that was kind of like the accepting, like setting out, just crossing the threshold. And then we had like our struggles, right? We had like did you sleep last night? We had that moment, right? I would say that's like that's a mini ordeal. It's a mini situation going on where we like,
it's like the trials and
trials. Yeah.
it's
Trials.
like
Yeah.
like so typically, typical, we'll say kind of condensed hero's journey. You accept the call, or you get the call, you freeze the call, accept the call, then you cross the threshold. Maybe you meet some allies or a mentor along the way. Us quitting our jobs was very much stepping into a different world, a new threshold, if you will. Right after you cross that threshold on the hero's journey, you have these trials, kind of tests. And usually that's where the hero kind of gets their ass kicked a little bit. Not majorly. It's not like the ordeal. It's not like they almost die or maybe they do die.
Yeah.
These are kind of just like, hey, you're in a new playing field now and you are a rookie.
Yeah.
And so that was very much like, we quit our jobs. Here we go. I'm so excited. I'm going on an adventure. And then it's like, did you sleep last night?
Yeah.
Me either.
It's like
anxiety.
Yeah. Anxiety entered the chat.
And then COVID entered the chat.
Yeah. Yeah. So COVID would definitely be another trial.
Yep.
But it was weird how like, it's like COVID it has been one of the more trying moments of like, I think my life at least.
Yeah.
Just dealing with not just the fact that we have to be quarantined, but also like there are people around the world struggling and like dying from this thing that is wreaking havoc across the globe.
Right.
Right. So you're dealing with that, but also like it kind of put everyone on the same playing field. Mm-hmm. We were able to, it was the first time that I think we were able to a broad audience, like talk to people and be able to like really relate Be like, hey, we're all at home.
That's true.
Let's just talk and like let's clean our room for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like enter Quarantine Quest.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Maybe COVID's too big of a threat to the world for it to be like a test and trial on the road.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So,
If COVID for a lot of reasons could be an ordeal. And I think Quarantine Quest in a lot of ways could be like a resurrection, like making like the coming out of this stronger
yeah.
and like finding a way to build a community around
That's well said.
some of the pains that we've had to deal as a group.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what we could use.
I would say so. I think that like, talk about resurrection, like turning a terrible event into an amazing event, right? That's like the resurrection of a story,
Yeah.
the rebirth, if you will. It's like, yeah, you're right. I think that's probably one of the better examples of going from like, oh crap, how are we going to run our business, to let's put a positive spin on this and use it to double down on what we conceptually believe the hero's journey is.
Yeah.
Which, like I said earlier, intrinsically like infers that there's going to be an enemy, a problem,
Yeah.
a dragon, a giant global pandemic. And even there's people in the Facebook group at the time correlating that, like, hey,
Yeah.
my big threat, my big dragon right now is this global pandemic. It's
Yeah.
like, this is great. Like, we're changing this framework. Anyway, I don't want
Yeah.
to get caught up on it. I do think Quarantine Quest in a way was kind of a rebirth, a
Yeah.
resurrection.
And then I would say June was like the victory return home, right? We did the biggest,
Yeah.
we had our biggest month we'd ever had by like,
We relaunched a journal. We
Yeah.
redid the content. That's when we introduced the North Star,
yeah.
right?
We did like, we like whatever X it was over our entire previous year in June
Yeah.
alone. Right.
Yeah.
So, which was really cool.
And
right?
that never would have happened if we didn't accept the call to adventure.
Exactly.
Right? Like if it was still a side hustle, if we were still working our day job, there's no way, with COVID and things, there's no way we could have given the same amount of attention
Of course.
to have that kind of a day, or even the same kind of like thought to it.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like I would call that kind of a returning home
Yeah.
moment.
And then
You know,
in July, like we crossed a new threshold, right? We tried to outsource shipping.
mm-hmm.
And with that came like the trials of having to split up inventory and get it to all the places, get everything set up,
Yeah.
figuring out how to run ads now with like the different, it's like, there was just so many new variables that we jumped into right after this kind of big returning home.
Yeah.
Right. And we struggled. It wasn't great.
It wasn't great.
It like, I mean,
it didn't go super well.
it's not like, I don't want to say anything negative about our shipping provider. It wasn't really them. I just don't think we were ready for what that was. I don't think that and I would say that like, that was kind of, or like, especially towards like the apex of it, like October, we're spending a bunch of money resending journals.
It's definitely an ordeal.
There's no way for us to do quality assurance.
It's painful.
And the resurrection was bringing it home, like finding this place, the Heroes headquarters, and bringing it home.
Yeah.
And then I would say that the returning home moment has been the last month and a half, right? The November 15th release of Purple, and then figuring out new systems to put in place for sending them ourselves, and bringing on new allies. That's kind of been like and I think 2021, for the lack of being, I don't want to be cliche, but I am, like, is kind of our new beginning.
Yeah.
We have some new things we're going into.
So this is a good example of how the retrospective can change the whatever point in the hero's journey you need it to be. Because I actually look at moving to the hero's quarters, this is back in like the fall, like as like a call to adventure. I saw it as like a new kind of venture that we were going on, and there was very clearly to me like a call to adventure, and then a refusal to call, and then we had to like, because it was kind of like, here's the spot, and we're like, okay, we're gonna do what we wanted, and the landlord was like, well, no, I'm not gonna give it to you. And then we were like, what we want, like, come on, take a chance on us. They did, we got it. Like, to me, that was very classic, like call to adventure, refusal to call, push through, accept the call, cross the threshold, and now we're here, kind of like about a month or so of trials and tribulations. It's like, I felt like Purple was like this big ordeal, this big push that we made, and then it like happened really well. So anyway, like, small example of how you can apply this, like these concepts to like different parts in retrospect.
Yeah. Yeah,
it all kind of works.
it's true. You can change it however you want in a way,
Exactly.
but it's hard, right? Because like there's no resolution to the trials that happened, the ordeals that happened within the July to October time, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like ordeal, and then it's just we're just like, you know what, let's just do a new journey. Like
Well, the
Yeah.
rule is it's about the story you want to tell.
yeah,
That's like your ultimate rule. The story we wanted to tell about trying to go with a shipping provider was that we actually decided to take it in house.
yeah,
But when we originally decided to do that, I bet the story we wanted to tell was like we were growing so fast that we couldn't fulfill them ourselves, so we had to outsource it.
yeah,
It's like maybe that was the story for a second, but it ended up not being great. So then the story became, well, you know what? Like our North Star is providing a great customer experience. So like we're gonna take it back in house. So now that's the story. It's like we tried it, didn't work. Now the resurrection is us bringing it back in house. You know, so it's kind of flimsy, and it I don't want to say flimsy, it's not the right word. It's just kind of like the gold standard is the North Star, and it's about the story that you want to tell. That's like that's kind of the biggest criteria. You can build all the other parts around it however you want, whatever narrative you want to create. People make up stories all the time about themselves, but it's about identifying the kind of story you want to tell about yourself, which is knowing what your North Star is. And for Nila, that's being happy. Right?
yeah. And for us, it's like customer experience.
Yeah.
And helping people
As a business.
Yeah, and helping
exactly.
people see themselves as the hero of their story. Right? Those are our two big North
The
Stars.
Infinite Game, as Simon
Infinite-
Sinek
yeah.
would say. I'm reading the book right now, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it.
Yeah. That
All right.
was
That's
that was like there was some stuff I kind of just thought of in the moment, and it actually like
Sounds pretty good, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. It's been a fun year.
Yeah, it's been a really fun year.
Crazy.
Um,
Crazy. We quit our jobs and hired our friends and family and moved into a house this year.
We're a month away from a year full time.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Life comes at you fast.
It does. Well, thank you so much for watching or listening. And yeah, we're super excited to share the next year with you as you guys see us live our hero's journey. If you want to see more videos about that kind of stuff or other stuff about the Hero's Journal, go ahead and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. And thank you, by the way. Sorry, I didn't want to, I know you ended, but I want to say this. We just got 150 podcast downloads. I think that's separate from YouTube, but that's like people on Spotify or Apple Music, I think. So, or Google Podcasts. So if you listen there, thank you so much. We appreciate it. This podcast is definitely a new call to adventure for us, and we're very early in the journey. But even having 150 people download, or 150 downloads, I should say, means a lot to us. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here early. And yeah, we're excited to grow with you.
If you have any hero stories you want to share with us,
Yeah.
send them to
Seriously.
our Facebook, Instagram. You can email us at hello@theheroesjournal.co. And yeah, maybe we'll read yours here on the podcast.
And hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.